Hello and welcome to Comprehension Points video Snark. This video series isn't an audiobook. If you thought that it was, please stick around and learn some reading and listening comprehension skills. I read books, discuss what went wrong and how they can possibly be fixed. I'm continuing my read through of Game of Sunken Places by M.T. Anderson. Not the first video, go check out the others. Links are posted below. Chapter 20. Back closer to the house, the boys debate their next move. Brian worries about the so-called basement lurker Max had warned them about earlier. It had seemed foolish when he said it, but now I'm not so sure. He also wants to wait until night. Greg reminds him that time is not on their side. Furthermore, they don't know where Jack is. They should move to grab the perfume now while they can. They try to go in through the kitchen door, but it's locked, which seems kind of silly when you stop to think about it. These people have literal magic. I'm not sure that a locked door would really stop them if they were determined to get in. Instead, they get in through the solarium door. As they go into the main part of the house, they hear Prudence playing the piano and Max talking with an unknown man in an unknown language. The man starts to order Prudence around, and obviously it makes her start to cry. So much for Max having promised that they wouldn't hurt her because she wasn't playing. Brian clearly wants to try and help her, but Greg is more focused on getting to the perfume. And I get that it's not exactly like they can do much to help at this point, but come on, have a tiny spark of empathy, would you? They hear the man talking first to Daffodil and then to Burke, and then a gunshot. Greg takes off for the basement, leaving Brian frozen in the kitchen. Daffodil comes in, and I quote, "Half of her face was missing." Chapter 21. If you were wondering why it is that Daffodil is able to walk around with half of her face missing, it's because she's another robot. Honestly, do try to keep up, darling. I think that we're quickly getting to the point where I'm not even sure if Max and Prudence are even real. Without their arm, I cannot butter their bread. Because priorities. However, Daffodil doesn't seem to be aware in any way that she actually is a robot. She suggests that she simply needs to put some iodine on it as if it were an actual cut. The boys said they need down into the basement, but they're worried about the basement lurker. Daffodil says that it was something Max said to keep them away from there, but warns that some actual dangers have moved in since they've been gone, which the only thing that surprises me is that the house hasn't already been infested with them. Prudence comes into the room and starts crying when she realizes that they're there. She explains that right after the boys left, there were all of these things crawling up the side of the house. Max yelled out that the boys had left and no rules broken and everything stopped. Now those people are there. She agrees to go up to her room to get some of the no-scent perfume, which she randomly happens to have sitting around. Like, baby girl, this isn't regular perfume. You know that, right? As soon as Prudence is out of the room, the men from the drawing room start making passes at her, begging for her to be included in the bet that their winnings would include a kiss from her. One of them wants to, and I quote, "I may snap my fingers near your knees, yes?" I don't know what that's supposed to mean, and I'm afraid to ask. I think that this is the author's attempt to make them be creepy purrs, but while still trying to keep this aimed at 12-year-olds. When she hands over the perfume, the boys beg for her to come with them. However, Prudence encourages them to be the ones to leave, which is the smart and mature thing to do. But the fact that she doesn't offer to actually help them get down off of the mountain and personally put them on the train makes me lose faith in her. As the boys head back out, they discuss the idea that the reason why the house was attacked was because Max had been the one to summon those things to attack in the first place. And I have to say, it is a distinct possibility. Somehow, by asking Uncle Max what was going on, we were about to break the rules and forfeit the game. Horse, a dead horse here to remind everybody, there's literally been nothing keeping these boys from simply going, "Sucks to be you," and leaving. The only thing keeping them in place is the author commanding them to stay and continue to play. There's nothing that drives them, which has been making this story so insanely frustrating. Then they go back to the boat, which has been placed back at the other side of the lake again. They go back to face down the Snark once again, to the exact same results as the previous time. This is the part that's confusing me because the Snark moved, but the boys were quicker. They got away and went into a section that they hadn't been to before. They did literally the exact same thing right now, but went into a new section. So I'm not even quite sure what the point of literally any of this was supposed to be. Chapter 22. The boys find themselves in Gargoyle City. It's aptly named as it's full of, well, take a wild guess, would you? As the boys walk around, they keep seeing ghostly specters of figures who disappear as soon as the boys pass. After several pages of walking around the city without any sort of plot relevance, they find themselves up at the castle. There they find even more ghosts, only royal ones doing royal things, like having parties and moving around in the rooms. Whoopee, I guess. This is so exciting, said nobody, ever. They stop to have lunch and they look at the map as they eat. The end is in sight, but the map warns that they will have to answer another riddle or lose a turn. Finally, they find a sarcophagi of some long-dead king with what I'm guessing is the riddle on it. It's something to do about finding the coronet to run the game. Then they find two boxes, one with each of their names on it, with a button on it. Greg snaps one of the buttons with a blanket, and the boxes sink into the ground before they eventually come back up. However, when the boys press on their respective buttons, some ghostly monks show up. They chide the boys for trying to teleport in the middle of the church. He then asks if the boys aren't the ones who are trying to save the world and that they'd taken the coronet a few years ago. However, when the monks fade away, the boys realize that he was from long, long time ago. Except that rather than to see his ghost being projected into the future, they think that they dipped back into the past. Obviously, this leads them to the opinion that they're supposed to somehow travel back to that period to get the coronet and win the game. But if you've been paying attention at all, you'll realize that the book has introduced a time travel loop. The monk has already confirmed that at some point they have already done this. So at some point in the future of the boys, they will do this no matter what. And this is something that Brian points out. So they're going to have to go looking for more of those boxes, I guess, that they can travel to where the coronet is and take it back to their present. Or whatever they need to do with it. Chapter 23. For some unholy reason, the author decided to include a character study of Calgrash for 2.5 pages, and I suppose that there is a time and place for a character study, but the problem is, as you might guess, I feel as if this entire thing is misplaced. However, I feel like my biggest problem with it is mainly, I'm not quite sure why the reader should care after it was established that he's nothing more than a robot created simply for the progression and immersion of the game. Like, I want to be nice and suggest that maybe Calgrash is going to become the linchpin to everything from here on out, but who am I kidding? No, he won't. I doubt that any of this is going to be relevant. Like everything else has been irrelevant so far. Ugh. Back with the boys, I look around the crypt. For more than a page is giving throwaway chapter. Again, I don't think that I would mind it if I thought that this was actually going anywhere. Sometimes a bit of padding is a little necessary until we reach the next plot point. But I feel like that's kind of been this entire story, simply biding time until somebody takes this book out behind the barn with a shotgun. At the far end of the crypt, the boys find this weird doorway with warnings in multiple languages to keep out. Greg, the idiot in this book, decides that he wants to go see what's in there. Brian waits back a ways and urges his friend to be cautious. This caution ended up being well warranted as they're attacked by some sort of monster in the room beyond. Brian wants to use the emergency grenade that Jack had given him, and I have to say, calling it a grenade seems kind of odd, especially since I swear when Jack had originally given it to him, the narration had described it as being an orb. However, Greg protests, claiming they'll forfeit the game. Horror is here to remind everybody, not even the boys understand a single thing about this game. They have no horses in this race, yet they're putting their lives on the line for people who probably wouldn't do the same for them. I still don't know why they care so much about finishing the game. The chapter ends with Brian dropping the grenade regardless of Greg's wishes, although to be fair, the boys are being attacked by a monster. Thanks for listening to my book Snark on YouTube. New videos are up every Monday, but stick around because I sometimes drop random videos on other days too. Just as a reminder, even if you can't financially support me, there are other ways to help me out. The first is watching this video as well as all my other videos. It's also important to like and subscribe. Finally, you can share this video with all your friends so that they can help as well. If you're already caught up with all of my videos, you can go to Tumblr for my main book. Snark's always free and updated every morning. The only edit to Patreon is to become a member without paying. You'll get access to the same things on Tumblr, but on Patreon. Supporters can have access to so many more book snarks starting at $1 a month. Also, new is a 1-week free Patreon trial, so be sure to check that out. Special thanks to Dawn and Phoebe for supporting me on Patreon already. If you want to hear your name in my video next week, either support me on Patreon or make a one-time donation. Do you like my snarks so much that you want me to snark your writing? I do that too, but not to worry if you feel like you couldn't take the criticism. I also offer regular book editing as well. You can contact me on any of my social media platforms if you have further questions about my editing services, including pricing options. If you want to read some of the things that I've written, you can purchase my works on Amazon. I have a slew of spicy short stories and 2 full-length novels. I also frequently run flash sales on my stories, and if you don't follow me on any social media, you might want to do so just so you can know when I might be offering things for free. Links for everything will be posted below. See you next week, guys!